Tuesday, about 5:15, 74 degrees, just a beautiful day, but now it's starting to cloud over. I guess it's gonna rain. I'm headed home, and it's time for the workday recap. My first job today was at a La Quinta hotel. It was to replace their video card in their camera server, which was making a lot of noise because the fan on the board was going bad. So I replaced the board, and still wasn't getting anything on the on the monitor now. So I swapped out the monitor, got video. It was a bad monitor, so they ordered a new monitor. Simple. Done. My second call was at the VA outpatient clinic, working on that Script Pro machine. Had to go back and replace that keypad from yesterday. I got there, replaced the keypad. Again, no big issues. My third call was all the way down south in Eagle Harbor. It was at the Ruby Tuesdays, so right about that time it was getting that time to be lunchtime. So I actually ate lunch at the Ruby Tuesdays. My call there, once I was done, was to replace their network management device, basically their router. And the way, I don't understand people's thinking when they mount certain stuff, like the racks and all that for these NMDs. Some Bright Spark mounted this one, and then mounted a surge strip right to the left of it, about 6 inches from the rack. And also, when they ran the cables for the dial backup modem and the T1 line, they terminated them in a surface box about 6 inches to the left of this rack. Unfortunately, the NMD is turned sideways, same with the switch that goes with it. And you have the screws that screw it into the rack on that same side where the surge strip and all that is. Well, in order to get to those screws with a screwdriver, you have to pry the surface boxes off the wall and take the surge strip off the wall just to get to the screws to unscrew the NMD from the rack. Then again, this Bright Spark put the NMD on the back side instead of the front side of the rack. So in order to get it out, I had to push it to the left a little bit, take the ears off that mounted to the rack, then push it back and pull it out from the back side, from the right side of the rack. Then when I installed the new one, I had to do the opposite, basically. Put it in from the right side, the back, push it out the front so I could put on the side connectors for the rack, the ears, and then push it back in and screw it in. It just took much longer than it should have if somebody had mounted that rack correctly and oriented everything correctly. Some people just don't care though in this field. They figure, well, my job's done, I'll never have to come back, so screw the next people. But whatever, we deal with it. Overcome and adapt. Or adapt and overcome. Sorry. I got that job done. Had to call AT&T. It was AT&T Wi-Fi call. We do a lot of those. We do like most of the McDonald's in the area. We actually set them up for their Wi-Fi. Bunch of different places that use it. Anyways, once I got the NMD up and running, I had to call AT&T Wi-Fi and test it. Tested with my little laptop. Was able to connect to the wireless. Then we tested the cashless environment, which is how they run their credit cards and all that. So that's another thing this system does. It runs their cashless system. But everything was working, so I was released. Everything was good. Got back to the shop, and we got in those parts yesterday for the shredder at the hospital in McClenny. The oil pump, I think I told you about. So I spent probably a good hour and a half installing an oil pump. It also came with a rubber gasket for the throat where the paper is inserted when the cover's on. And what was it? Oh, I got those two parts in and put the cover on to test it, and it still wasn't pumping oil. So I thought, okay, maybe it's the connector on the main board. So I swapped out the main board. Still no change. Then there's a little auto start board for the buttons that you have to push to activate the pump and get it to oil manually. I changed out that board, and once I did that, everything was good. Had to clean out the little nozzles and jets. Unfortunately, they're small enough. They're so small that you need like a needle or a very small paper clip to clean out those jets for the oil. But I cleaned out every single one. Pretty good. Was it wiped it down? Oh, in order to get that oil pump on, because the two screws that hold it in are on the inside where the cutting teeth are, inside of the little housing piece, you have to take the whole head out, which means unbolting it from the bottom of the housing, lifting it up, which some of these, not this particular one, although Gaines will say it requires two people. Some of them do require two people because they're heavy with the motor and the thick metal of the housing or the cutting block on there. But you got to take that out, and there's a pair of wires that go from the pump over to where the board is that you have to clip in and all that so that it stays out of the way of the fan on the motor. So that's a little bit of a job getting that in and out. But I don't know. I think it's just so much fun working on a shredder because, you know, to me it feels like working on a car. There's a lot of moving parts. It can seriously hurt you if you're not if you don't respect the equipment and take it easy with it, be careful, it will bite you. You stand a good chance of losing fingers, or more. But why is this guy slowing down? It's just a curve in the road, buddy. If you can't handle the curve, don't drive on this road. Simple. I hate going off on people when I'm driving. It's just certain little pet peeves, but you know what? I'm gonna end this little segment. I'm almost home. Possibly talk to you when I get home.